Hey guys, welcome back. Well, two things. First is this is going to be a short show. But the second thing is you're going to get to do something that you're just going to thoroughly enjoy. And that's watch me sand. But what I'm about to show you, I have never filmed. And I was a little reluctant to do it now, but it works so good. If you've ever had to sand a big tabletop or something, and you're on there with a random orbit for hours and hours and hours, I didn't feel like I needed to do that, because if you haven't done it, then you need to try it. And as you're aware, we've got a few tabletops and a few things need sanded. Now, where did what I'm about to show you come from? Well, for me, back in the auto body days, and you're aware, I've done a lot of custom painting and all the trick stuff, and you'd paint, and man, sometimes you'd have 10, 15 coats of lacquer on there, and you had to sand it between coats, and then you had to do a final sand, and you buffed it with a buffer. And when you're buffing a car, even though you're using a compound to rub it out, that compound is cutting. And if you grab a corner over an edge, or you over rub, then you go through. And but metal, and especially a buffer, unlike wood, you're not going to dig it out. But we use buffers. Now, a buffer is an entirely different animal than a grinder. And it's simply speed. And to understand what I'm going to show you, basically what we're going to do here is use a buffer, polisher, whatever you want to call it, to do the majority of our sanding. Now, this tiger maple right here, and I don't know if you can see it, but if you look close, I've got a little bit of a edge raised here, and yeah, you can see the scratches from the 120 and some of the tiger maple we actually did with 80. Yeah, you can see that. Now, unless you've tried it, again, man, you'd have to get on here with some 80, then 120, then 180, and just sand and sand and sand, and blend this little ridge out. Well, one of these pedestals wouldn't be so bad, but there's 14. Except for this one, they're all done. Take a look over here. That's 14 foot of curly cherry. How you like my trace coat? Naranja. I think that's the way you say it in Spanish. What's that? Naranja. What's that? Orange. It's just a very light dust coat. Because again, on curly cherry, and I sprayed it high pressure, just a dust. Because we don't want to put enough on there for it to get in that broad curl in that thing. But if you think this tiger maple's bad, and we've got one of these that's tiger maple, we got two round ones. Well, you get the point. How many out there would like to have to sand these with a random orbit sander? No thanks. No thanks? Well, we're going to set up and I'm going to show you this. Now, again, I told you that you have to have a polisher or a buffer. Now, but up until about 10 years ago or whatever it was, until we got a drum sander, every tabletop, every panel we did, this is how I flattened and leveled. Sherry always referred to it as, I need to big boy it. Because and it's back there somewhere, but it quit. But God, I use it in the auto body days and the wood days, and I've rebuilt it twice, so it's done its job. But anyway, so I decided to go for broke. And I've had this for actually a good while, because I use it quite often. But again, this is how we leveled every single top. Now, again, no drum sander. So just like most of you guys, it was a straight knife, lunchbox planer, glue it up, and then you had to scrape, sand, hand plane, And if you haven't done that, then you haven't done woodworking very long. But I would big boy it, and I would start with some 80 usually, then I would 120 it, and then I would 180 it, and then Sherry would come back and sand it with a random orbit pretty quickly with some 180. Done. And while, compared to drum sanders and all of that, it's a little antiquated, but just like here with this drum sander, it was doing the flattening and the leveling. And if you look inside of here, well, those are 36 grit scratches. Good thing we're not finishing in there. But again, to get this tiger maple flat and level was quite a chore. And here and there's a few 36 grit scratches in it. Not a problem. Okay, we're going to get another camera angle, but now I want to explain to you. This is what I'm going to use. And I told you I went for broke. Harbor Freight. $39.95. But the pad on it was getting a little worn. It's Velcro. So I went out to see if I could get a new pad. They can order me one. But I didn't have time. So, I got a lot to sand. So $40, I'll just get another sander. So I did. Right here. But this, it's a variable speed, but it's not a soft start. Now, what's the significance of a soft start? The soft start, you turn this thing on and you've got this, huge, it's just going to town. Well, wood, you come down on this wood, man, you're going to put them great big swirls in it. And I know you're all thinking this. You're seeing these and you're like, man, the amount of swirls this is going to create is unreal. You'll see. But the odd part is, you have to excuse the dust. This box has been on the shelf. I can't even believe as long as I've had it, I still got the box. Reads the same, looks the same. It's not. This does not have a soft start. If you look at the picture, you see this little vent hole here? And then notice down here. Not there. Now, this one, can we get the item numbers? Let me see. Okay, here it is. Here's the item number of the one that you would want. It's a 69 474. And then this one is a 60 626. This is not the one you want. Now, back when we were buffing cars, and they didn't have soft start. So what you could do is turn your speed down, and you did what's called feather the trigger. And feathering the trigger meant you were just bumping it to get going, okay? You didn't want this thing running just like a random orbit. You know, you take a random orbit sander and you hold it. Guys will come to the finishing class and they're standing here holding this random orbit sander, and it started to, wah, you know, to spin out. And then they slam it down on a piece of, you just put all them swirls in it. And of course, the other side to that is they're standing here holding this random orbit next to their head. What if that Velcro lets go? Probably not a good idea. And that's when in the class you hear me scream, whoa, whoa, you know. And of course, the other thing they do is they're going 2 million, you know. Why don't you just turn the sander off and save electricity? You know?
All my students do that.
Huh?
All my students.
All your students do that? Yeah, I mean, they get on here and they just go nuts. But here's what I want you to pay real close attention to. When I'm sanding this, now the first thing you need to know, this thing removes a lot of wood and it does it fast. Now I'm going to start with 120 because I got all these scratches and I got this blendus little peak out. And so you got to keep moving and you don't tilt it. The way you do it is you get it flat and you just start going. Direction. And, you know, just like this ridge. This ridge means this piece of wood is a little bit higher in this area than this. But I need it flat. So if you get on here, you know, and you take this and do this number, tilt it, you just dug a valley. Keep it flat and keep it moving. Now, when you exit the panel, you do not turn it off and let it die down. When you exit, just like using a brush or a random orbit, when you exit, you're still sanded and you just go off. Then turn it off. If it's on the wood, it needs to be moving. That's simple. Now, the biggest problem with this is that, well, you notice there's no dust control. And believe me when I tell you, you'll see. I'm hoping we can see it. Now, behind me, we've got a dust collector with no bag. We've got a fan, and we've got well, we had another dust collector here. But we'll be okay. And we'll have the door wide open. And actually, I'm back in the shop a little bit more because of the glare from the door being open. But, so what I'm going to do when I start sanding, I'm going to turn the mic off. Because all this is going to be running, all you're going to hear is a big roar. But what I want you to focus on is how I'm holding the sander and how I'm keeping it flat. Okay? And I'm also going to tell you this. Don't go get one of these and get on your new table you just built and start. Get you some, and when I say get you a test panel, and a little piece of wood is not going to do it because you start, and it's going to go flying. Actually, a piece of plywood is a good place to start. Because number one, the veneer is thin, And so it'll show you what you're doing wrong. Keep it flat and keep it moving. That's the key. Okay, we'll get resituated and get some dust mask, and we're going to move to the side so you can see, and then we'll go from there. We'll be right back. Okay, I got a piece of 120. Now this is the white line. Now the sander's 7-inch, and these are 8-inch. But no big deal. Now these are from Industrial Abrasives. Okay, let's get going. Okay. 3.5 minutes. Now, I'm going to say this again. You're betting that this thing is full of swirls. Jeff's sitting there going, yeah. Now, you keep seeing me rub this, and I've told you about this. When you see somebody, when you're feeling this with your fingertips, it's not telling you nothing. If you want to know flat and level, lay your hand flat and pull it. This is the old auto body trick. You lay your hand flat and you pull it, you'll feel any lump, bump, wave, anything. And if you really want to intensify that, put a piece of paper under your hand. You won't miss nothing. However, them swirls, what you think?
I'm surprised there's no swirls.
Do what?
I'm surprised there aren't any swirls.
Jeff said he's surprised there are no swirls.
Right.
Keep it moving and the different directions and whatever. You know, it's like sanding a, huh?
Can you see a 180 swirl? They get so small you can't see them anyway.
Well, you know, that's what a random orbit sander, because it's doing that oscillating thing, it hides the swirl. It's there. It's just not in a uniform pattern. And that's why, you know, setting it down and leaving it sit on it running. But I want to show you something else too. You know, I hate to do a show about sanding, but like I said, we got a lot. I tell you what, do Jeff, if you will. Let's move over here, and here's this big cherry top. It's gonna get dusty quick, but I'm gonna just take this 180 and just hit this corner real quick. Because the question is going to be, how long it's going to take me to sand this tabletop? Oh yeah, it's also hard to keep your glasses clean. Now this is just 180. I need to get a new piece of sandpaper, but You get the point. Flat as pancake, slick as glass. So how long you think it takes to sand this tabletop? Hour?
10, 15 minutes?
Nah, I don't. Hour. Well, no, now the edges I got to do the random orbit on, but
Half hour.
huh?
Half hour. A half hour?
I don't know. But so you like that?
Very nice. Very quick. Looks good.
Looks good, feels good, is good. Now, now, if you wanted to, you could take and put a very fine trace coat over it, and you can still see a little bit here, because I need a new piece of sandpaper. But and if you wanted to, you could just quickly run over it with some 180 or something with a random orbit if you wasn't real sure of yourself. But are these pedestals going to get a random orbit sanding? Nah. Now Jeff's just over here looking real close.
Yeah, you don't see any swirls.
I mean nothing.
There's nothing. That's amazing.
But I was going to get it out, but anyway, I'm going to tell you about it. Jim Pell brought his festival sanders down for me to use if I need it. And we had the little 5-inch out. And Devin was sanding with it. And he kept saying, "Granddaddy, look." And everywhere he would start and stop, you'd see these big swirls. And I got to looking at it, and either I missed something or I don't know. But, well, let's just take a break and I'll get it. Okay, now before I do this, let me explain. I'm not putting anybody's sanders down at all. Just not. I guess I could have wore a white shirt, huh? Anyway. Extra large shirt, 210 pounds. I don't think I weighed 210 when I was born. But anyway, now the first thing I noticed, and this is 120, but their 120 feels about like the 80 that I get from industrial abrasives. No matter what we did, because I mean I'm looking at it and it's got a little bit of oscillation, but it's so slow. I mean, we just couldn't get the swirls out. I got my air sanders and my Merc out. Now, not to bore you to tears, but I'm going to give you one more, just to show you. We'll be right back. Hammett,
About 6, 7 minutes.
6 or 7 minutes. Come here and feel it.
Well, that's nice. I mean, you don't see any swirls. Nice grain. I mean, you can see the figure of the grain, everything, and you know, it's amazing. and this is
Nasty.
These are pretty deep scratches.
Well, you can see here, even though it went to
80?
the drum sander, you can still see like a little pause or a little bit of,
Right. And a lot of linear scratches. And what are they, 60? 80
no,
maybe?
no, those are actually new 120
Oh, okay.
on the drum sander.
But this is amazing.
And not a flaw in it.
No, I mean, it's,
Of course, trace code helps.
yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah,
Like that.
I like it a lot. It's, you can see how much dust it's putting off.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
the dust is,
Well, it just shows you how fast it's cutting.
yeah, I mean, I mean, dust is an issue with it, you know, but hey.
Very nice.
So, you know, there's always that outside thing, and but this is a case, you know, had a guy telling me yesterday, said, man, it's going to take weeks and weeks to get these tables sanded. And I thought to myself, little do you know, grasshopper, this is a case where you're going to be paying me not only to do it, but you're going to be paying me for knowing how. And that costs a whole lot more than the do thing. Count on it. I'll catch you next week, guys.